You're listening to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. Now here's your hosts, Kevin, Derek, and Alex.
All right, and welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Derek, and joined, as always, by your co-host, Kevin, Alex. Gentlemen, how we doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good. A good conference championship weekend. Our Super Bowl teams are set. And I found both games extremely entertaining for different ways, right? The Chiefs and their really amazing defensive game plan to just completely make the Ravens look beyond mortal, right? Lamar Jackson was by far the worst quarterback of the weekend statistically, and really just the eye test. He looked like the worst quarterback of the weekend. So congratulations to Spags and the Chiefs defense for, making what a lot of people, most people are calling the MVP look extremely pedestrian. And then the tale of two halves between Detroit and San Francisco. Detroit came storming out of the gates and had everybody kind of, pop back in their chair a little bit going, holy crap. And then the second half came and the 49ers remembered, oh yeah, we're really good at football too. And just took over the game. So but good games on both accounts, entertaining from start to finish, down to the wire, kind of. I mean, I guess if you're counting the onside kick attempt there for Detroit and San Francisco, but good games nonetheless. Now we have kind of the bye week as the Pro Bowl, the honorary underwear Olympics, if you will, and then the final show. We got one game left this season, guys. That's it.
Who the real winner is of this is people who didn't have skin in the game, because they were two really good games, entertaining games, like you were saying, Kevin. And if you didn't have, a rooting interest one way or the other, or, weren't a Lions fan, I mean, that's had to go through so much. I mean, hell, that team went 0-16 not that long ago. And to be that close, that one's got to be a kick in the gut. But we've been, as just football fans that haven't had a rooting interest, because none of our college teams were in the college football playoff semifinals. None of our professional teams were in the NFL semifinals. Man, we've been treated to some really good football games on the biggest stages here of late. So the semifinals for college football was great. The semifinals for the NFL were great, competitive, close. Not decided after the first half, even though I think we all thought, I sure as hell thought that the Niners-Lions game was decided after half. I'm going to be honest with you. I was watching the first half of it, saw that the Lions got up pretty big, and, the wife wanted to go get some stuff done. So I was like, yeah, sure, we can go get some stuff done. This game is not what it should be. Came back after we went to the grocery store, sat down, turned the TV back on, and saw the San Francisco 49ers up on the stage with Michael Strahan. And I was like, what the hell just happened? So I was thrown for a loop. Had to go back and look at what all transpired there in the second half. But good for San Francisco, good for Kansas City. Not who we all thought was going to be there, but not surprising that it's these two teams.
Yeah. Turns out it turns out the way to beat a really good defense is to keep your offense on the field.
Generally.
Yeah. Yeah. That old adage certainly played into that Kansas City and Baltimore game, right? You look at just the time of the possession first half, Baltimore had the possessions for 9 minutes of the 30 minutes of game clock. Yeah, that's not a recipe to beat the Chiefs, is to let Patrick Mahomes and company just keep out there and keep going, which was kind of a different thing that we'd seen from them in the past there. Baltimore, who had been very run heavy and really had made kind of their made their hay really pounding the rock and keeping the run game going. Not much of a run game going on in that entire game there. So be interesting to see.
Go off about that. Have you seen that media clip?
I haven't seen that one. No.
Ryan went postal about it.
Oh,
It was absolutely the worst called game he had ever seen in his life, and just trashed.
Rex Ryan said that.
Yeah, trashed.
Yeah. He knows a thing or two about really bad games too.
Yeah, so, that's what I was thinking.
And the thing is, and sorry, Derek, I'm interjecting here a little bit. Baltimore held Kansas City to 4 first downs in the second half, right? Baltimore's defense did step up that second half. But when you fumble the ball on the 1 yard line and you throw a really bad interception in the end zone, it is a recipe for disaster. And this late in the season, every game the football is important, right? The coaches preach this, but this late in the season, you cannot turn the ball over. Like, you absolutely cannot. And the difference between the Chiefs getting these turnovers and the Lions missing 2 or 3 different opportunities to intercept Brock Purdy is the difference between making it to the Super Bowl and not. Like, if the Lions come down with 2 of those interceptions, specifically the one that Ayuk caught, right off the face mask.
Yeah.
And then Ayuk caught it, goes down at the 3 yard line or whatever the heck he was. And then they scored 2 or 3 plays later. You come down with that interception, completely different feel. The crowd's back out of the game because you just turned the ball over. Even if you go 3 and out and punt it away, you keep the crowd out of it. But missing key plays like that is damning. But when you get key plays like that on defense, it is exponentially increasing your team's chance of victory.
Yeah, I mean, you just can't. The biggest number there from the Kansas City game and the Kansas City Baltimore game, Baltimore had 3 turnovers. You cannot turn the ball over like that. It is too valuable. It turns out that those were really, really crucial turnovers, basically directly leading to points for 2 of those. So, like, you can't look at anything other than the inability to take care of the football. And likewise, look, the Lions had plenty of chances to take points, right? Nothing's guaranteed, right? Their kicker's good, but nothing's a guaranteed. But they had a chance to get some extra points. Hindsight being what it is, you'd probably want to take some of those opportunities and get those points. But I'm glad that Dan Campbell stuck to being Dan Campbell, and he didn't become not Dan Campbell just because of what the game was.
He knew,
that's how you get there.
Yeah, and he knew it was a race to 30. He knew it was a race to 30, and San Francisco beat him to that number.
It was good.
Yeah, no, it certainly was. All right, any other thoughts here on the conference championship games?
I know some Baltimore fans are really frustrated in general, right? They didn't like the officiating. Honestly, a lot of them are I say being sourpusses, right? Saying that the Chiefs' antics before the game with Mahomes kicking Tucker's stand and Kelsey grabbing it and throwing it out of the way was childish and unsportsmanlike. Never, ever have I seen a kicker line a tee up on the goal line in the middle of the opposing team's warm-ups. Like, the Chiefs are getting a lot of heat from certain people about how they reacted to that. But it was just as, if not more, disrespectful for Tucker to do that.
He knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
he knows exactly what he's doing.
He absolutely knows what he's doing, which is why he's not throwing a big fuss about it, right? Like, I thought it was kind of funny. Like, he knew exactly what he was doing, but it right, wrong, or indifferent, when you're as good as Justin Tucker is, he is not on the field every snap. And he wrote a check that his offense couldn't cash, right? Like they did. That team got fired up. The Chiefs were fired up about that. They felt disrespected on top of it, and just any little thing in a game like that these top end athletes can use as motivation, whether it was disrespectful or not, right? It was him ribbing them. It was funny. Like, here, I'm going to mess with them just a little bit. Like, but that's what these athletes use as an edge, right? Like, they take that little gesture, as funny as it was supposed to be, and turn it into this giant hate narrative where they don't respect us and they're, challenging us and let's go. And I mean, it's crazy how little things like that can change the psyche of some of these athletes. Like, if they were in it, now they're like super in it. And maybe if they weren't quite ready for game time, like something like that, okay, now they're fired up and ready to go. Like, it's crazy, the psyche of a professional athlete.
Yeah. Are they any little thing in the perceived chip on the shoulder? And
I'm actually just reading an article about that, and Mahomes was talking about it. It looks like today that he talked about that situation, and he said for 7 years he's been doing that same warm-up routine, and there's only been like 3 occasions where the kicker wasn't moving out of the way. All 3 times it was in Baltimore. So Tucker has been a nuisance for a while there. And you're right, Kevin. They use these little, whatever, every little inch matters to them, right? That's their mindset. And so for them to use it, I mean, it worked out.
But that's why these guys are 1%ers, right?
Right.
Like, yes, a lot of us, most of us, played some sort of athletics growing up. Yes, some of us, many of us played in high school. Yes, a few played in college, but these guys are the 1% of the 1%. And little things like this is part of the reason why. They're just wired differently. Like, it's crazy. And their ability to turn it on and off. Like, some of my favorite podcasts and people to follow are former athletes, right? The New Heights podcast, Jason and Travis, they could do a reality show with the two of them, and I would actually turn into that reality TV. Like, those guys are stinking hilarious. I love watching their show. Julian Edelman has one that is awesome.
Yeah.
Like, if you guys haven't seen the snip of him and Brady and Randy Moss talking and telling the story about Belichick using Tiger Woods as motivation, and just kind of how that transpired. Like, I don't know how copyright things get applied, so I'm not going to go into their story. It's on Edelman's. Well, seriously, like, I'm not looking to step on his toes, but it's hilarious. It made me laugh. Like, and just these guys and their ability to tell stories and how they can cut it up is great. Like, again, rabbit hole. Sorry, I was watching another is a reel of something. Is this former first baseman for the Yankees, and I don't remember his name, was telling a story about how Derek Jeter pulled a massive prank on him. Like, and he just these guys have the ability to flip it on and off. Like, it is game time, it is time to play. Like, it is game time, it is time to play. Like, and it is phenomenal to hear these stories and then realize that they just went out and excelled at their profession. Like, they are at the top. They're the top of their profession. Like, not just guys on the roster. Like, it's like, holy crap. Like, it's just a whole nother level.
yeah, I know. Absolutely amazing on that. So, well, should we get into a little bit of update from our game we've been playing here on the throughout the playoffs here from the fantasy side of things?
I don't think we need to do that. I think we should probably.
Are we
talk
doing
about
that? Is there coaching news? Did we cover everybody? There was nothing new last week.
We certainly got some coaching stuff to kind of discuss there.
Would you like to do that first, Alex? Would you like to delay the
Sure. We could do that.
All righty. So Yeah, as we already talked about, right? The Patriots have their guy in Mayo, Pierce with the Raiders, Callahan with the Titans, Morris with the Falcons, Dave Canellis with the Panthers, and Harbaugh with the Chargers. Seahawks and Commanders still have some job openings, and the Commanders were like actively searching and going to people to interview them, and some news came out on that one there today where
The Schefter tweet.
Yeah, where Ben Johnson is deciding that he's going to remain in Detroit, which kind of also set some other things off there as well, right? Like Bobby Slowick was another guy that was rumored for some head coaching opportunities there. Also see that he's opted to stay with the Texans as well. So kind of interesting that you have top coordinators, guys coming off of really good years going, I'd rather stay here than go take over that team.
I got to tell you another funny one, another tweet that I saw. I think it was Rappaport, and I hope it's the real Rappaport because I've definitely fallen for the wrong one before. But I'm pretty sure it was the real one. Anyways, Brandon Staley, formerly of the Chargers, right? His name is getting floated out there. Brilliant defensive mind. And he is linked to the LA Rams, which is he would be taking over for Raheem Morris. But if you guys remember, his
former position,
that's what Brandon Staley was before he became the Chargers head coach, was the Rams defensive coordinator. So
Sean McVay, like Belichick there, where
he just brings back Josh McDaniels.
Just come on back.
Just come on back. We can use you here.
These guys are creatures of habit, man. Yeah. Familiarity is key.
Right.
Does help. Yeah.
That's pretty. At what point does Eric Bieniemy get his shot? And I know we talked about this, and we've talked about the last couple of years, and I know I continue to bring it up. But at what point, just give the guy a shot? No one wants to coach the Commanders right now. Like, no one does. The turmoil, the change in ownership, this, that, and the other. Like, his offense, he did a good enough job running that offense and showing that it wasn't just Andy Reid. That give him an upgraded quarterback and let him take a stab at it for 2 or 3 years. Like, what's the worst thing that could possibly happen? You finish last in the NFC East? Like,
hey, mission already accomplished.
No.
Exactly. Like, it just organization blows my mind. Like, if I'm Eric Bieniemy, I'm saying, screw this. I'm done. Like, at least being with this organization. I'm going to go try it somewhere else then. Like, let me go back to Kansas City. At least I was winning games.
Right. Well, actually, right. Like, you brought up the point of, the Commanders certainly looked better on offense than we had seen in years past, right? And there was certainly some more firepower there, right? But at the same time, like, that was the biggest knock on Kansas City all year, is that this isn't the Chiefs offense we're used to seeing over the last several years. And they turned it on here a little bit in the playoffs, but still, like, this isn't the same high-powered Kansas City offensive approach that we've seen. Like, the Chiefs primarily are where they are because that defense is playing at an incredibly high level and playing very well. So, to the point where we're so used to the Chiefs having to put up 30 or 40 points to win games. The recipe for a long time there was, if you held the Chiefs to under 20 points, you got a really good shot of winning that thing. And they're actually able to win games, only putting up 17, 20 points out there. So one of the biggest differences between personnel, Eric Bieniemy is not there.
Oh.
So very interesting. But to your point, right? Like, that's I just at this point want to be a fly on the wall in those interviews and see what's how that actually goes.
Have you guys heard the latest conspiracy theory around the Chiefs?
Please enlighten us.
So this one's actually football related. So
okay, good.
This one, it's actually football related. So if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl Andy Reid will retire and ride off into the sunset, only for the Chiefs to replace him with Bill Belichick.
Okay.
Like,
I don't see it, but okay.
Hold on,
I'm
I
just
gotta
like
look something up here.
Like, I was reading that and I was like, like, I don't think Andy Reid's going to retire, but that's not too bad.
So
Are you looking that one up, Alex?
I'm looking up to see how much younger Andy Reid is than Bill Belichick. It's 6 years.
I was going to say like 8, but
Bill's
okay.
71, Andy's 65.
Yeah, but Andy's an old 65, man.
He is.
Like,
He's
carrying
had some
around
wear and tear.
just that
Yeah.
body type, man.
Yeah.
65, you got to feel like you're 80.
I don't know, man. If I'm Andy Reid, I'm coaching until they kick me out the damn building or I'm carried out of that building.
I would. You know how much
Another way.
extra, like, he's compensated very well to be the head coach of the Chiefs, but even his endorsement money, like, how often do you see head coaches involved in commercials? And he's been in 3 or 4 different State Farm commercials with Patrick Mahomes, and he's funny.
Yeah,
like
he is funny.
He's absolutely funny. Like,
yeah, I don't see him.
often
I
do you
think
see
he's
that?
gonna ride. He's gonna ride Patrick Mahomes' career as long as he possibly can.
Yeah, I think the only coach who's been in more commercials than Andy Reid is Jim Mora. Playoffs.
right. Andy Reid now the oldest head coach in the league.
Is he? Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
The only 2 that were ahead of him were Pete Carroll and Bill Belichick, and unless Pete and Bill find homes with either this, at that point you would think that Pete would have to go to the Commanders and Bill would have to go to Seattle. So
Wild.
Right?
I don't know I don't remember us talking about this last week, but were you guys surprised that Mike Tomlin stayed with Pittsburgh?
No.
no,
I'm not, because he still had the year on his contract, and they did well enough, right? With what they have, I think first off, that's a franchise that doesn't make hasty decisions, right?
Right.
Just historically, that franchise has a guy, stays with that guy through thick and thin. They're married to their coaches. You know, a lot of teams, a lot of owners date their coaches. Not the Steelers. The Steelers marry their coaches.
they've had 3 coaches since 1969.
Yeah. So that's, you know, I'm not surprised. There's some loyalty and some leniency. I think that they recognize the challenges that they face at the quarterback position. And I think that that's probably going to be the honest conversation that gets had this offseason. What are we going to do about
Rudolph
the
to
quarterback?
start week 1 next year?
Here's a fun one that I just thought of. I don't even know if it's possible or feasible. Russ.
I could see it if the Broncos
Smart
cut
kid.
him, right?
Yeah.
Like, if the Broncos cut him, I could see it.
I know there was smoke around the Raiders and Russ. They will also be in need of a quarterback, right? There's several teams that will be in need of a quarterback. Now, is Russ the answer everywhere? Well, clearly not. It wasn't the answer in Denver. Not that I think it was entirely his fault. But will he land on his feet somewhere? Yeah, he will. And there's going to be a team that's going to be quarterback hungry that's going to take him on. A proven starter, a Super Bowl winner. He'll take that.
I just don't know how the Broncos get around that dead cap hit if they cut him. Like, that's the one thing that I can't.
I think
they have yet to figure out how in the world they can go through that.
I imagine that's what they've been spending most of the offseason figuring out, and hell, the previous 3 weeks of the regular season.
Right. Because if you're Russell Wilson, why, at that point, what benefit is it to you to restructure your contract?
Yeah.
Right. Like there'd have to be something brought to the table at that point.
Yeah. So
if you're unable to deal him, right, like, and somebody absorbs that contract, which if what they're trying to do is to try and get to the get moved up into a point where they can go after some of these high profile draft picks, which, there's potential there. But at that point, I don't understand how you do that, because it's almost like the Jared Goff type of deal with the Rams a few years ago, where the Rams were giving up draft picks to get somebody to take on that contract.
Yeah.
And to make the compensation make sense. So, like, I don't know. Like, there's a whole lot of that just doesn't make sense to me on how they can potentially do that.
I mean, look, back to the original question of Mike Tomlin.
Right?
They won 10 games. Like, man, do you know how ecstatic we as Broncos fans would be if they won 10 games? Call the name outside the stadium, call the road outside the stadium Sean Payton Boulevard. Like, it's a spoiled franchise, which rightfully so. They've been very good for a very long time. But I mean, think about, teams like the Commanders or the Bears or the Panthers or Cardinals. They'd be ecstatic with 10 wins, and they wouldn't even be thinking twice about replacing their coach after a 10-win season.
All right. No, I mean, there's certainly something to that. So, but
now all bets are off after next year, because he's not on a contract after next year, and it could be a mutual parting of ways if they don't, do anything. But
right. And at which point, right, then you do the soul searching. Do you really want to go into a locker room again, or do you want to go, do something different?
TV.
Mm-hmm.
No. These TV gigs aren't half bad.
No,
there's a lot of them.
I think he enjoys coaching too much, though. I don't think he's to that point yet.
For sure.
Very true. Very true.
All right, now let's do it. Go to playoff scoring. Stupid game we're playing.
Hey, so before we get there, Alex, well, I'll delay that even more for you. Terry chiming in saying all you got to say is bang, bang, Niners gang. So Terry is, we know who Terry's rooting for there. Come the old SBs. So, all righty, Alex, there we go. I think I've delayed that as much as we possibly can for you.
Let's go.
All righty.
Yeah.
So
bad conference weekend. Yeah.
All righty. So conference championship week, as you can judge from Alex's demeanor, was not his favorite week here. But running through the quarterbacks, right? Alex did pick Lamar Jackson. I had Patrick Mahomes and Brock Purdy. And Lamar had 19 points. Patrick Mahomes, 16 points. Brock Purdy, 19.5 points. Running backs, Alex with his Gus Edwards pick of 4 points, and Kevin and I both took Isaiah Pacheco, 16 points. Wide receiver, kind of a mixed bag here, right? Alex had the Amon-Ra pick. I had Rashee Rice. Kevin went with Brandon Ayuk, 12 points, 8 points, 14 points, respectively. Tight end, right? The George Kittle pick for Alex, Mark Andrews for me. Kevin had Sam Laporta with 3 points, 2 points, 14 points, respectively. And for the flex, Alex went with Rashee Rice. I went Zay Flowers, and Kevin with Jahmyr Gibbs with 8 points, 19 points, and 6 points, respectively there. So for those of you that were very quickly doing the math at home on the fly in your head edition, that put Alex at 47.88 points. I brought in 62.84 points. And Kevin, you won the week with 70.28 points so far. So somebody got me on the week. I tried my best, but you got me on the.
I needed that. And really, that Zay Flowers pick kind of bailed you, right? Like, Zay Flowers, that 14-point performance in the long touchdown was great in your flex spot. I was afraid to do that, figuring I could, if the Ravens won, I didn't want to be handicapped for the Super Bowl. So I'm glad it worked out for you. I was afraid to use that one because then I feel like I would have been pinned into bad situation for our Super Bowl game, so I had to pivot. And
Fair enough.
surprisingly, Gibbs did not get the ball a whole hell of a lot.
No.
No.
But it didn't help when he fumbled trying to run in between the tackles there.
Yes, that's always a bad thing when you put the football on the ground.
Yep. So.
I knew it was going to be a tough go picking a Ravens running back, but it was because of plays that I have made.
Well, what? The first carry of the game, he went for 15 yards.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, okay, like, let's go. And then he got 5 yards the rest of the game. It's like,
but
that's what happens when you only run it 6 times.
I do have CMC available to me. I still have Patrick Mahomes available to me. I still have Travis Kelce available to me. So I've got a strong. I'll be in great position during the Super Bowl to make a comeback here.
Yeah, I think Derek's won this postseason competition just because there's enough similar players going around that I think Derek's gonna sneak away with the win here. But Alex, you and I are definitely fighting for second.
Yeah, because looking at that, I was going through that there's going to be a lot of crossover between that, right? And I've got that set to the point where I had whatever NFC team was advancing was going to be my the SB crew that I rolled out there. So, there's. I'll just give the sneak preview at mine and throw it out there, and you guys can strategize. We'll go into it next week as far as what our picks are. But I'll do a little reveal here, and that way you guys can strategize and try and do that. So I'm going Niners on my old Super Bowl deal here with Purdy, CMC, Ayuk, George Kittle, and Deebo Samuel, kind of rounding all of that out. So you guys can do with that information what you will, and see if we can't see if you can overcome the lead there. So currently total for that, Alex is at 211 points. Kevin has a cumulative of 222.14 points, and I am sitting at 262.7 points. So there will have to be some major ground made up there to overtake.
Going to be tough.
God, we need a big week from Travis Kelce.
Mahomes to Rice. Like
Mahomes to Kelce. Mahomes to Kelce. All Mahomes. I'll take Rice too. Mahomes to Rice and Kelce, but mostly Kelce.
Fair enough. Although that Rashee Rice is not going to play well if he has a big game. You get the Mahomes side of it, but you won't get the Rice side of it there, Alex.
I know. I need the Kelce. We need Kelce. That's our thing. We'll talk about that next week.
You're hoping for like the 4 touchdown performance, and we see a tight end become Super Bowl MVP type of thing. I know it. I could use it. That should be fun. So, alrighty. Well, any other thoughts here as far as things we want to rock and roll through tonight?
Let's tell everybody what we're gonna talk about next week, because yes, this is a shortened version of the Good Old Boys because there is no game to talk about, right? We talk about the game next week, but what we are going to talk about next week, right, is obviously our playoff scoring that we've been doing, our little eliminator game that we just got done recapping. We're also going to talk about probably the greatest thing about the Super Bowl, right, is the prop bets, right? The props on the Super Bowl. And if you know anything about the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast, we love a good prop. So we'll talk about our favorite props heading into Super Bowl Sunday. And I think the best part about Super Bowl Sunday is that the props are more than just, sorry, I got out of the way there. But the props are more than just what happens between the white lines, right? One of my favorite props is the over-under on national anthem singer time. Like there is anything and everything. So it is a fun week. We're going to come up with, 4 or 5, each of us will come up with 4 or 5 of our very favorite props that we will be looking forward to on Sunday. The Senior Bowl is going on right now, guys. Have you been paying attention to that at all?
Not as much as I wanted to. Like,
yeah, today was the first practice.
Getting in the way a little bit. So I'm trying to read the reports and follow some of the beat writers of people who are actually there. But unfortunately, the JOB is getting in the way of me watching it on NFL Network.
So today, I believe, was first practice. The East-West Shrine game is happening actually just up the road from me. And that, I believe, is on Thursday night. So something to keep your eye on. I believe that one's on NFL Network too. East-West Shrine game there. But yeah, this is, again, like we say, where you make your hay, right? Learning what's coming before April gets here, so that you've got a plan in place for your team in September, October, August, September. But yeah, those are some things to keep your eyes on this week. Senior Bowl, I think that game is on Saturday. Don't quote me on that. And obviously the Pro Bowl is on Sunday, all their fun stuff that they do. So it's still a good week of football.
Yep. And I'm going to have to sit there and really start thinking about what color the Gatorade bath is going to be.
Yeah, that's your favorite, isn't it? You like that one a lot.
There's a whole lot of them that I like, and so that a lot of the gameplay ones, but I also like a lot of the stuff kind of leading up to it, right?
Like
that's always that's always a fun one. The other one that's always fun is what's the category of the first commercial that's aired, or what is the what's the company or product that the first advertisement is. Like, that's a fun one.
10 years ago, allegedly there was a Super Bowl. I don't recall it, but I do recall that the first play of the game paid out crazy amounts, because how often does the Super Bowl start with a safety? So if you had that prop bet, you were laughing hysterically all the way to the bank. If you were a Broncos fan, you were laughing because it was easier than crying.
Yeah.
Looking back on that, we had no chance in that game. We had no Vaughn, no Chris Harris. I think our O-line was shot. We had no shot in that game. Allegedly, 10 years ago, there was a football game, though.
Right. This one here will be a fun one, too, because I'm sure there'll probably be a prop about, an over-under of Taylor Swift sightings.
Taylor Swift TV time. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. I remember last year it was how often were they going to bring up Mama Kelsey during that. So that'll be a fun one to kind of dive into and see some of those come through. So
it will be fun. Yeah. We'll talk about all that stuff next week.
Absolutely. So
they were talking about the other day that Taylor, the night before the Super Bowl, has a show
in Tokyo. Yeah.
In Tokyo.
Yeah, she is.
Right.
So I'm sorry to all you T-Swizzle fans in Tokyo. You're probably not getting an encore at that show. So that way,
she had plenty of time.
Although when you fly back across the international date line, you get all that time back and all of that, and so
she'll get there in plenty of time.
I did see somebody actually go through the entire breakdown that if the average
not just
show
somebody,
length,
Derek. A lot of somebodies went through to make sure that if Taylor needed to be in Las Vegas Sunday night, could she do it? And a resounding yes from the internet detectives and time travelers. There was a lot of somebodies that were talking about that.
Yes, God, it was amazing how many
mom's basement.
Good times.
So, but it'll be fun. We've got a great show for you next week, and a lot of fun things to kind of go through, and things that aren't necessarily as as fantasy relevant as we typically may do, or football specific. This is a lot more of the fun side of things there. So always a great time getting to talk the Super Bowl props there, and we'll kind of go through all the rest of that and start breaking down our predictions as far as how the game will go and how that looks and works. But before we call it a night here, any final thoughts out there for the viewers and listeners?
No, stay tuned, right? Like, yes, we have a couple down weeks, but then obviously we're jumping into free agency. We have the rookie breakdowns. Obviously April we have the draft, which is a really big event, and then player breakdowns, right? We'll touch 250 plus players here this off season, and our technical team does a great job of cutting those up and plastering them all over the World Wide Web for your viewing pleasure, all to help you guys get ready for the 2024 regular season. So it's the game that never sleeps, right? There's always something to do, always something to talk about, and we'll be right there along with you, trying to help feed your desire to improve and win those cash and trophies.
Love it. Alex, any final thoughts out there?
Yeah, it's slow season now, but it's churning right along. The machine never stops.
Right. Well, and Alex brought up a couple of key points there a little bit ago, right? With the East-West game, the Shrine Bowl, all of these kind of Pro Bowl all-star type of games for the collegiate level are taking place here. Combine right around the corner, and we'll be going through and helping everybody out there as well get ready and doing a lot of the prep work, the player profile works going into the draft as well, to especially help out with the dynasty angle and help starting to look ahead as far as redraft goes on these rookies here as well. So that's in the works as well and be coming out here shortly. But I do believe that's going to do it for us here tonight. You can find us on all the socials: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, at Good Old Boys FF. Again, best place to support the show. Head over to YouTube, youtube.com/@GoodOldBoysFF. Click that little subscribe button, ring the bell. We're going to be coming to you live Tuesdays, 11 p.m. Eastern, all off season, and look forward to it. And y'all have a good one. Be safe. He's Kevin. He's Alex. I'm Derek. Have a good one. Toodaloos.